All right, Paul, thank you for joining us here today. From your perspective, what is the most pressing challenges for rural hospitals and health systems right now?
Yeah, well, I would say the challenges are pretty much the same as all hospitals. It's just harder, in my opinion, because smaller hospitals, it's smaller dollars, smaller volume, so you've got much less margin for error. And so your decisions have that much more impact on what happens. And, rural markets are unique in that they tend to be more isolated. So, resourcing is tough, physician recruitment's tough. Your staffing tends to be hometown people, so that's not quite as much. But, and with nurses particularly, the nursing workforce is aging out. So just finding that next generation of people that'll come and stick with you at the hospital.
How have these challenges changed and evolved over the last couple of years?
Well, if you take COVID as kind of a big red line, that changed everything, and it almost like accelerated the already complex problems that rural hospitals face. The dumping of all the federal money during COVID kind of masked some of those problems, but once that dried up, everything just came right back to the surface, and so it's again kind of the same issues that have always happened, just the pressure is more acute now.
When we talk about some of these challenges, there's always going to be opportunities. What opportunities do you see for rural hospitals at the moment?
I think the most unique opportunity is in the realm of collaboration and what I call interdependence, because it's really not just a hospital; it's this whole healthcare ecosystem you have in these communities, and because it's smaller and it's fewer people, it's easier you can get them together, and so there's collaboration opportunities across doctors, hospitals, pharmacies, just the whole medical community, and then there's also, when I say interdependence, I mean your neighbor rural hospitals and larger health systems that may not be in your back door, but they're not far away. And so there's plenty of ways that they can start to work together. The challenge is they haven't really done that as much before. And you get small town politics into it, and you have to have some creative thinkers that will start to bring collaborative groups together.
Are there staffing challenges that you encounter with this? I imagine recruiting providers, physicians and APPs to these markets is a challenge. Do you have any pro tips on how to tackle those recruitment challenges?
Sure. I would say, well, I'll put it to you this way. One of my mentors talked about recruiting a doctor to a small town hospital in Georgia. And when he brought the doctor in the hospital, the doctor was overwhelmed by the gleaming clean floors of that hospital. And my mentor used that as a way to talk about, well, we don't just keep the floors clean. If you see that, you got to see everything else we do. So my point is, you've got to have an excellent core product. You've got to have a great hospital, whether it's in a big city, small city, whatever. That's the core. And then I always say in recruiting doctors to rural areas, if you can get them to visit, you can usually open their eyes to the possibilities there. It's harder because some doctors just don't want to go to smaller towns or smaller areas. But again, if you get them to visit, it's a much easier recruitment process. With staff, nurses and techs and clerical folks, it's still difficult. But I think you get much more into you want to make it a kind of place where people want to work. And if you can appeal more to that small town family atmosphere, that's always worked for me to get people to stick with you.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Running rural hospitals is really influenced by federal policy. Do you have any insights on recent legislation actions that have maybe created some challenges in this space?
Yeah. You have to kind of stay abreast of what's this change coming? What does it mean? What does it look like? But in the end, I never really worried too much about those regulatory changes because at the core, if you run a quality hospital and you control your expenses and keep a good staff, you'll find a way through whatever the regulatory difficulties are. And there's state hospital associations, there's all kind of resources out there to help you navigate and understand exactly what's coming. But at the core, you run a good hospital and you'll work your way through it. Makes
sense there. Looking at these rural communities, they really the hospitals provide such an important part to the community there. And being independent is a part of pride in a lot of these communities. What kind of strategies would you offer to facilities that are looking to be independent in some of these rural communities?
Well, I go back to my phrase, interdependent. I think you've got to partner up with people, and partnership means different things. That's collaborating with your neighbor hospitals, fellow hospitals, but there's also resources that you can share together. You can come together in networks to do billing together, to do purchasing together, IT together, for example. So you have to be creative and looking for ways to partner.
Excellent. Paul, one last question. What does your family think you do?
My kids just think I have the most boring job ever. But what I tell people and what I tell them, whether they believe it or not, is, a hospital administrator is a steward of a critical community asset. And so I liken it to being a, mayor of a small town or school principal. You're responsible for everything that happens there, and you're trying to make it better. And that's what I did my whole career. And now in this role, I kind of come alongside those guys to help them steward that community asset.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You bet.